So, wrong button. So we're going to pivot over to Mr. Too many papers in front of me. Mr. Cristian Martinez. This guy is an amazing soul. I got to spend a week on a cruise ship with him and his lovely wife, which I had no idea that they were coming on the cruise until about the day before when we were all hanging out in Miami. When Michael decided to tell me that he was coming. I guess this guy loves the dangle hooks and then surprise us when there's a superstar coming on the cruise ship. And let me tell you, he was rocking some really epic Hawaiian shirts on this cruise ship and his sandals with the white shorts. And I got to hang out with him at the dinner table and got to hear some incredible stories and got to know his lovely bride, which was a phenomenal time. Like, I never got to go on a cruise ship until this first trip. And I got to enjoy one of the most epic cigars of all cigars. Like, oh my gosh, it was amazing. We had cigars under the stars, and I think we were watching Hocus Pocus while we were hanging out. It was the greatest time ever. And it was the best trip of my life because Mr. Hollywood was there rocking his shades as we were walking around the cruise ship. And I even tried to get him to go sing karaoke, but I couldn't get him to do that. He just wouldn't do the karaoke. We're going to continue this climb towards the summit because we're halfway there, y'all. And you know what's great about this one summit is? Typically, I only do one-day summits. But this time, we're doing 2-day summits. And we've got Cristian Martinez. And the greatest thing I learned is he's from the island of St. Croix. And I used to vacation there all the time. And we got to talk about some really cool stories. So with that being said, I love giving introductions of all introductions because that's just what I do. And I challenged James yesterday. I was going to try to beat him out. So I got to get a tally on that. And I need you all to tell me, but you're all going to be nice and say we're going to tie. Anyways, with that being said, Mr. Martinez, the summit's
Well,
yours.
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know. Can you hear me?
We can hear
Audio
you.
good? Awesome. Awesome. Well, um, to echo what everybody said, Allegra, that was amazing. Um, I do love your energy. You're always dancing, moving, shaking. But hearing you was just a joy and a treat. And thank you for sharing that. This summit by far has been like top notch. Thank you for sharing this space with us, David. For your heart, for wanting to create an opportunity for people to not only experience the grief, but the joy and then the love of their loved ones. And so, with that, I won't belabor too much. I have a timer set so that I don't go over my time. I'm going to give you guys a few illustrations, a few kind of like props that I had my son help me with to try to drive this point home of what I wanted to share. I wanted to share with you guys 3 stories that kind of came to mind when you shared the summit because you were holding back. You didn't want to tell me what it was till the last minute. And so the first one is I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm going to put this right here. It's like a little Lego chair. So my son built this today, and back in 2004, I was asked to do something that was outside my comfort zone. I was asked to do what's called the honor guard. So it's where in the service you honor people that lose their life. And so I got opportunity to do a funeral, and it was one of the first funerals that I got to lead. And I was humbled, I was excited, but I was nervous because it was the first time that I was put in charge. And a lot of people want to be in charge until it's time to be in charge, right? And so I get to be in charge, and everything that could go wrong went wrong. So as we're finishing up, we did the funeral, and all the military honors were rendered flawlessly. However, when we were bringing the casket to the area where we were supposed to stop, I guess one of the ground bearers, the people that were supposed to have the area secure to make sure everything was good, forgot to put one of the planks back. So I was in the front. I fall in the hole where you're supposed to be burying this guy. Now, if you know anything about military honors, you're not supposed to move. You're not supposed to pretend like anything happened. You're supposed to just go with the flow and pretend like nothing happened. So I fall in the hole. My team kind of goes through this process of getting through the steps. I act like everything is normal. I come out of the hole and finish the ceremony. I go over, I'm talking to this lady and I'm rendering the military honors and I have to tell her this thing when I hand her the flag. And part of it is on behalf of the United States of the Air Force, uh, faithful, thank you for your faithful service. And as I'm trying to get through this speech because I'm nervous about what just happened, I fell in this hole. This little girl comes and tugs on my shirt, and she looks at me, and in the middle of what I'm saying, she speaks over me with the sweetest voice, "Is my daddy coming home?" And so I'm like standing there and I'm like, man, like, what do I say? I'm still trying to finish this conversation, and I'm trying to honor her as I'm giving her this flag. I'm trying to honor this little girl by not ignoring her. And I just didn't know what to say to the little girl. So I keep talking about finish the presentation. I go through the process and then we have to leave. So as I'm walking out, I tell the team, hey, I want to go back and talk to the little girl. So I go back and I said, hey, sweetheart, I'm sorry, I had to finish my presentation. And so who is your dad? And so then she tells me that her dad was the guy that we had just honored, the military honors. And so her mom comes over and she's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was like, it's okay. And so this lady, her husband, he had just passed away a few weeks. It was like around Thanksgiving time frame. It was like prior to Thanksgiving, and it was the week after Thanksgiving that we did the ceremony to render the military honors. And she had said, what's so sad is that during this time, every day when we would get home, she would go to her daddy's chair and she'd kept asking, you know, hey, where is daddy? When is daddy coming home? And she kept going to the chair, kept going to the chair. And so one day she had pulled out the chair and she asked, can I sit here? And then her mom said, yes. And she said, as she had pulled the chair out slightly, I couldn't help but like have tears come down my eyes because I didn't really want anybody to sit in that chair. I didn't want anybody to take that moment. But as she looked at me and she asked if I could sit in that chair, that was the moment that I decided to tell her that her dad wasn't coming back. And so this was if I remember correctly, this was 2 days before the funeral. And so she said that evening she had this tightening in her heart and in her chest, and she said, I really wanted to tell my daughter that he was coming back, but I couldn't. And I said, daddy isn't coming back. You remember the accident? So she finally explained it to her. She said that her daughter's eyes got watery, and even though she explained it to her, she felt like she couldn't understand the concept that he was gone. And I could imagine, I mean, she was like maybe 5 or 6. And so she said, well, since daddy isn't coming back, can I sit here so that I can love him? And so when she shared that with me, I said, it's amazing that our kids, tend to remind us that it's okay to move on. Like we can still love them, we can still share with them. And she said that, in that moment, she realized that that chair that she was holding for him, that space that she was holding for him, it was a space that she wanted to remember and not let go of. But her daughter reminded her that love can come from something that they shared together, from that moment that they shared together, from that time that they shared together. And so now, I had got to become friends with this lady because of that moment that we had spent, and she had shared with me that, like every year, what she ends up doing is, she has that chair that people sit in, and they basically share memories of somebody that they love, somebody that they enjoy, somebody that they spend time with. And as you shared the theme of this summit, David, one of the things that kept coming to mind is, we want to remember the people that we've lost, but we also want to, as Michael shared with you, live life for them, right? Experience life, for them. And I believe that this summit is that chair, right? Where we get to share the love of the people that we've lost. We get to share the amazing stories the amazing life that they live, where we can, as Allegra said, like share their memory, but really love them and let our hearts rise again. I really enjoy just seeing how, we get to honor the people that have made the impact in our lives. The last time that I was here, I talked about my grandmother and how amazing she was, and my wife's grandmother, how amazing she was. And those two women were just powerhouses. And I wanted to share an image with you guys because I wanted to read something. And I'm going to share this so you guys can see it as I read it. So I'll see that. Are you able to see that image?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is what they call a missing man table. And what happens is when somebody dies, they set this table up in the service, right? And it's a very symbolic ceremony. They go through and everything on the table has a meaning. So this is to really help people understand that although we have lost people, they're never to be forgotten. And so, for an American soldier, somebody that's fought for a country that may never ever come back, what you can't see is that brown thing that's standing there. That's a chair that they've basically leaned forward to say that nobody can sit there, but they're not forgotten. They won't ever be forgotten, but they're there, right? And so, I'll just read this to you. The table is round to show our everlasting concern for the people that are missing. The cloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their motives when answering the call to serve. The single red rose displayed in a vase reminds us to live the lives of these Americans and their loved ones and friends who keep the faith while seeking answers. The red ribbon symbolizes our continued determination to account our missing. A sliced lemon reminds us of their bitter fate, captured, missing in a foreign land. A pinch of salt symbolizes the tears of our miss, the families, the ones who long looking for answers, decade after decade of uncertainty. The lit candle reflects the hope of their return, alive or dead. And then the Bible represents the strength gained through faith to sustain us. The loss of from our country, founded by our nations under God. The glass that's inverted is symbolic of their inability to toast with us.
We lost your volume, Kristen.
No, I paused.
Oh, sorry.
Um, the chair is empty. The seat remains unclaimed. And so, as I was sharing that, uh, man, I'm sorry, I got a little bit emotional, just thinking about the chair. And so that chair, like I said, is the summit. And so as we go through and carry the memories of the people that we love, just remember that you honor it the way that you carry yourself. You honor it in how you treat people, and you honor it in how you show up. So, to the chair. All right. So, the second story that I wanted to share is about a candle that a friend of mine, she lost her mom right before her mom's birthday. And the family tradition was that they would always light a candle right before Christmas. And so what ended up happening is her husband really wanted to light this candle, but he didn't want to offend his wife, because he knew that that was something that was special to her. He knew that it was important to her. He knew how much it meant to not only her, but to her mother. And he really wanted to light the candle. So one night he had went over and he lit the candle and he stood there by her side. And he was worried because he didn't know how she would respond, because it was something that her mom did, and he felt like it was something that she may have wanted to do, just didn't know how or didn't have the courage to do it. And so as he lit the candle, he was nervous. And we were talking about this, and he said, and you know what's crazy, Chris, is the candle went out. And I felt so bad because every year when her mom would light this candle, like she would light the candle and it would be like a thing that they did every night. And the candle would only go out when they blew it out. He was like, man, the candle went out. And you would have thought that the candle was out for like 30 minutes. He was like, the candle was out. And he was like, and I just looked at her. She looked at me and I felt like awkward. I didn't know what to say. And he was like, it just felt like God himself just lit the candle back up. The candle just lit out of nowhere. After being out for so long, it just lit back up. And he was like, man, like in that moment, I didn't know what to say. And he said that his wife looked at him, she winked at him, and she said, thanks, Mom. And I know what it feels like to wanna, like honor the people around you, but not, cause offense. Recently, it was I was talking with my wife. We were putting up Christmas decorations, and it's funny because around this time of the year, she gets really excited. I mean, she gets like so fired up. You can see like she just loves this time of the year. And I felt so like bad because for me growing up, Christmas it wasn't the same as it was for her. It wasn't like super exciting. Like I would get excited, but it wasn't super exciting. And so this year I find myself and I said this funny thing to her. I said, "Hey, I said either you get all of it or you get none of it." Because most of the time I'm the one that like isn't really like celebrate. I'm like, "Okay, you do your thing, celebrate." And so this year she's like, "I want to get this." I was like, "All right, well, let's get this, this, and this." And so we were doing some decorations, and for the first time we did this unique thing for our tree. And in that moment, I heard this come out of my mouth, and I felt so bad because it reminded me of the story that my friend had shared. And I was like, man, this reminds me of your grandma. And she had passed away a few years ago. And so I was like, oh, should I have said that? I was like, oh, I don't know if I should have said that. And so she like stopped and she's like, what did you just say? And I was like, oh, this is gonna get bad. I was like, did I say something to offend? And she was like, what did you just say? And I said, I feel like this is something that your grandma would have done. And she was like, you're absolutely right. And I was like, "Whew, okay." I was like, I didn't say something wrong. I didn't, because this is something that really, really her family loved this time of the year. They always enjoyed it. And so I know that when my friend shared kind of like this tradition that they had, it felt a little bit hard for me because I was like, man, this is something that we're doing. I'm doing it. And it was instantly a reminder of the amazing legacy that my wife's grandma and my grandma had in our lives. Like they would do these things that brought them so much joy. And for me, it was hard because at times it was always like, oh, we don't have this or we don't have that. And so for me, it was just an appreciation to be there. And so I never got that kind of like to be able to do that. So refusing to let the candle go out in this time of the year is really important. And so I think one of the things that I thought about is that again, this summit, what you've done, David, is create a place where people can see the flames in each other and breathe the life back into them, just by listening to each other's stories. So, thank you for that. And I'll end with this. This was another thing that I had my son build for us. He's like really creative. He's always doing stuff. So this is a little train. And so one of my friends in high school, he was a really good friend of mine. Um, he ended up losing his life a few years ago, and I was really good friends with his mom, really good friends with his wife. I didn't get to meet his son, but he had a son, and I was just sitting down recently, kind of going through some pictures and going through some stuff, and every so often we'll like reach out to each other, and um, this particular individual, it was so funny because they were so fond of trains. They had a train ornament that they always put up, and I remember back in 2000, I want to say it was like 10, a really good friend of mine at work. We went over to their house. It was right around Christmas time, and I noticed that his daughters were putting gifts on the ornaments on the trees, and it was similar to what Lauren had shared earlier, where they would put a ornament on the tree based on the occasion, like it was based on a specific occasion. And so I was like, oh man, that'll be a cool idea. And so we started doing that, and we had started kind of like doing that for our kids. So we would get ornaments, and we would buy ornaments specifically to something that they were either into or something that was important to them that year, and then we would do the same things for ourselves. And then my friend, we were FaceTiming, and I was just showing him some stuff, and I had showed him our tree, and he was like, "Oh, that's interesting." And so he was like, "Oh, I have the same ornament." And so what he was saying is that, the ornament that he had was a train ornament. Well, I want to say it was like 5 years later he had lost his life, and he had wrote on that ornament a message, and I didn't realize that he had wrote the message. And I was going through, and his wife had sent me like a message over Facebook, and she had said, "Hey, thank you so much for how you always was there, how you always supported him, and how you never made fun of his train kind of like fetish." And I said, yeah, it was kind of weird. Like, I don't know what was his thing with trains. Like, we didn't in the islands, we didn't have trains growing up. So it was weird. Like, I was like, where did he get this train thing, right? But it was just something that he saw. He was fascinated with like the engineering behind it. He was just captivated by trains. And so what ended up happening is she had told me that she would always, every year after he had passed away, she would go to this box, and she would always pause when she saw the train ornament. And she would never put the train ornament on the tree. And so this had been like 5 years that since he had passed. And I guess the sixth year, when they were going through it, I guess his son was like super excited about going through and opening the stuff. And he had knocked over the box where that ornament was in particular. And she got to see the note under it. And so when she read the note, she was in awe at the meaning behind the train. So she didn't read it to me, but she was just telling me it was a special message. And she said that when I read that to my son, he asked, "Now we have to put this ornament on the tree, because I really want to know more." And so she started telling him stories. And what's funny is what it did is it brought her son, and his mom together. Um, and they started sharing stories about like 20 years ago, just like reliving his memory, which was really, really cool. And so I know for me, it was hard because I shared about the stuff with my kind of like growing up, and I would do these things. But it's funny because we've developed these traditions now in our family, and I really get excited about getting an ornament for the kids, or enjoying something and doing stuff with my wife. And she's kind of looked at me now like, okay, you're doing too much. Like you're trying to do too much now. Like, we gotta chill out. Like, I'm like, hey, we gotta do this like nice. We gotta do this right. We gotta, I'm like doing stuff outside, and decorating. So, I'm really excited about the Christmas season. But it's because of what I see now that I didn't see before. I see an opportunity to create memories with people that I love. I see an opportunity to create something beautiful with a family that, David, Michael, Dustin, all these, you guys are amazing. And every single person on here has created their own community. And, we get to be a part of that, to share that with you guys. And so, as we continue to create special memories, I'm in awe. I'm humbled. I'm honored to be here. And I'm just thankful that we get to spend this time together going into the season, knowing that I have people that I can, share and do life with. So, David, I am 2 minutes short of my time. I've been good about not going over. I try not to go over whenever I get opportunity to speak. Hopefully, you invite me back. Over to you.
Brother, you were a powerhouse today, and I got to tell you something, bro. Um, Number one, you're always welcome back to the mountain. You're always welcome back to base camp and the summit. I absolutely love what you stand. Pass this over to our amazing VIP group and our speakers. Does anybody have anything that they would love to pass on to our amazing Mr. Martinez? Excuse me. Come on, I know there's somebody.
Yeah. I came in at the tail end. I've been in and out because of meetings. So I'm so glad that I was able to catch that piece with the table. So thank you so much for your service. And I thought, oh my gosh, that is such a beautiful way to remember somebody with, all the I'm a multimedia artist. So I'm always looking at those kind of things as well, how much visuals anchor us and anchor those stories. So I thought that was such a beautiful thing to do, and not only like for military, but just I was thinking, oh my gosh, like sometimes like my children's father passed away in 2020. And one of
Mm,
the conversations my daughter and I have had, like, she's like, I'm never going to have dad walk me down the aisle.
mm,
And I thought, oh, we're going to do that.
yeah,
He's going to be there. Her brothers
yeah,
will walk her down the aisle. And she's like, it's not the same, but he's not going to get that opportunity. But I
mm.
was like, and I've not that she's even like dating someone,
Yeah.
get that, but it's one of the things that you know, it it hurts the children, when their dad's not around physically. And I thought, oh, what a beautiful way that we'll be able to honor him when they are ready to get married. We'll bring them to the table. So thank you for sharing that. It was really, really beautiful, impactful, and also reminded me of what I think it was Lauren who shared earlier about the importance of traditions
Yeah,
and how creating a new tradition, to really connect us as people. So it was a beautiful way how the tapestry is still happening here. Like Lauren
yeah.
touched on it, and then you brought a beautiful visual for us. So thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah. Thank you for that. That's super important. I think, we don't think about that until it happens, right? Where, as you said, you think about your daughter and you're like, wow, like, yeah, like that's yeah. It's whew, to think about that. Thank you.
Thank you. And before Deb, really quick, Kristen, Raquel is the genius behind the Mountain Summit theme song. She is the one. We had a 30-minute conversation with Tish, and I just talked about what New Beginnings was founded on and is founded on. And I sent her maybe 2 or 3 videos in one of my presentations. And when Tish says that she's like a divine unicorn, she's not kidding. She is an amazing soul when it comes to pulling music together and getting connected to um, what the music is all about. And at some point throughout these 2 days, you are going to hear the Mountain Summit theme song. So I am dangling that hook. It was going to be today, but I lost my voice last night, and so I wanted to save it for maybe tomorrow. So if you have time tomorrow, come back and hang out with us. But I just really wanted to give a shout out to Raquel, because I've been hearing so many stories about how that song is impacting people's lives, and what you shared this afternoon, Chris, is the legacy in motion is what it's all about, with hope for the holidays and what we're going to be tackling tomorrow. So I just wanted to give you a shout out there, Raquel.
And Christian, when you talked about the train ornament and the other items, it really evoked for me when Eric talked earlier about hope as a rope, or as I like to say, as a thread, and that sort of the physical items that we touch, that we pass on, that we leave behind, trail threads of hope that connect us to the people that we've lost through and around time in a really powerful way. And it just ties into the idea of gift giving around the holidays, and the things that we give to each other to show our love, to demonstrate how we feel about people, and things that we give intentionally or unintentionally after we pass on from this world. And it's still forming, but it's sort of those threads and those connections are very powerful, and you just evoked them in a really meaningful way. And I wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Josh. I greatly appreciate that. Go ahead, Deb.
Well, before I get to the couple of things, my takeaways from Christian is Raquel, gorgeous. I heard the song. Now I'm putting a beautiful face with okay. Anyway, gorgeous. Christian, oh, wow. Lots to unpack. I will keep it concise. In fact, I think I went under on my time today, which is so unusual for me. But that said, talking about the honors, and thank you personally for your service. My brother was in the Navy. My dad was in the Army. Actually, he went AWOL from the Merchant Marines for my mother. We won't discuss that. But, and grandparents and so on and so forth. Thank you so much. And I think, the military does actually get a lot right that they don't get credit for, but the symbolism, the ceremonies, bar none, incredible. And how you kept it together with a little girl, I don't know how you pulled that off. But and then, of course, then sharing the story of her mom and her and everything else, and what in my head I kind of transposed as the memory sharing chair. I like that. I like that a lot. And that seems like a fabulous tradition, especially, when there are little ones in the house, and it might be their only way to learn about a parent.
Yeah.
Is, during these holiday seasons or during Christmas, where they expressly sit and dust them off and bring them out in memory form. And also finally to the train. And well, I think your friend was an engineer in another lifetime. So yes, you were on an island. You didn't have trains, but he knew them, loved them, and he's conducting as we speak. And so, anyway, thank you so much for everything that you shared.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you, Deb. And thank you, everybody. Hopefully my Wi-Fi holds up. It looks like it's getting a little laggy here, but typically does that in the afternoon. We're going to finish this thing off strong.